How you doing? I'm Dr. Paul Dyer. Welcome to Mental Health Mondays, or whenever the time you get to see this program, share this program, like this program. I'm Dr. Paul Dyer, and I'm going to be talking about the youth, disparity, and mental health. We are missing this epidemic of the youth. We've missed this epidemic. We knew we had an epidemic. And the reason it's a strong word when we use epidemic is we went through one when it comes to the COVID, right? We had lots of people dying. We had just over 1 million people. But here, let me give you some of this data. In the black and brown community, and this is specifically the data I have, and I've done the research on, we have approximately, and it's pretty close with the data, in the United States alone, we have every year black and brown students who are seniors, who are graduating. 12 million of them throughout the United States, 12 million would not be able to read above a 10th grade level, would not be able to do math above a 9th grade level. These are just statistics and data. They may be a little bit higher in some city, they may be less in other cities. Whether it be your 1% to your 3%, but the data across the United States still accumulate the disparity of how many black and brown children are going to be without this type of education. Now, this type of education, it means absolutely nothing to somebody who says, well, my child can read, my child's going to college, my child has the aptitude of getting a job. But this also tells you the plight of so many people that are living in despair, sadness, depression. And I'm going to get into that. Because if you have 12 million per year, 5 years is 50 million people. Those 50 million people just resultantly, some are going to prison, some are going to die, some are going to shoot you, some are going to shoot me. And that's just because what's going on in their depressed state in their minds. Now, I'm going to share my screen because I'm going to be writing things. So I hope this works here a little bit. Let's see, there it is. Share. Alrighty. Let's get into this mirroring. Desktop. Thank you all for being patient. Because, one of the things that we, as people, if we don't do this, and I had came up with this as if I don't do, I will not survive. If we don't do, none of us survives. So this is so highly important that we come to a situation or a revelation or realization that we're in this together. Some people don't believe in the black community. They really don't. And it's okay if you know someone who doesn't believe in the black community and say, well, my community's fine, my house is fine, my situation's fine. And that selfishness has really cost us a lot of trouble. It really has harmed us. And the reason why it's harmed us is because the plight of what America is going through is that total, we say it's without me. It's always this me, right? And this me realizes that I don't have to do anything if it really doesn't affect me. And the sad issue is it probably doesn't affect some people. Just try to get this over. I don't know why this is bothering me over here. There. I don't know why I just want to get that over. Yes, I am. So when we talk about the brain, and people know that I'm Dr. Paul. Most people know me as Grandmaster Paul. Most people know me as the other guy, the guy that wears many hats. But here today, we're doing Dr. Paul. And when we talk about the brain, most of the people that goes to the brain, let's go with the third trimester. The third trimester of a child's life. The third trimester of a child's life is so highly important because it realizes that gets all of its blood supplies getting from its mom. And we know that. And as it gets it from its mom, it's also getting something else through the blood supply. It's getting information. Those of you listening on the podcast, you're not seeing me write this. But it's getting the information. And as it's getting the information, it starts to, let me see if I could get this higher, maybe because it's just, let's go on that big one. Okay. As it's getting its information, it's also getting its signals. Remember, a lot of things are passed on down through blood supply, through epigenetics, through the genome, right? So if your mother is stressed out and has an environment, right? I'm going to put down that in environment, experience, right? These are some of the causes. These are some of the causes that creates what you call that's high cortisol. And the cortisol is something that is released in the body during a fear base, right? So if you have fear in your life, you're releasing a lot of cortisol. And in that cortisol has it creates a lot of damage within our bodies. And that's the problem when it comes to the brain. Now, 95% of your life has been programmed through a subconscious state, things that are given you through your environment or things that were given you through your experience. So, let's see if I could get back here. Hope everyone has this down. Let's just go. So we know that through that for the first to the third trimester, you're passing on down through the blood supply. So the blood, I got to go back up, and I guess I got to release this thing again. So through the blood supply, it's passing on information. It's passing on information to the baby. Now the baby's born. The baby's born in what you call a situation that isn't great. It's bad. Bad environment, high violence, all of it, right? We know it. We've seen it. They hear it on the news. They point it out. They point to those kids. They point to those people. They point to that community. They point. And yet we are not doing anything because we keep appointing the people that does not help these communities. My personal opinion, I think these communities are being done and as scapegoats because these kids, these people are producing these 12 million per year, 50 million throughout the United States for about 5 years. 12 million per year throughout the United States, taking a combination of 5 years is 50 million kids. We have grandparents that are about 30 years old. Grandparents that are 30 years old. Now, this is not a political debate. But when we come to the brain chemistry, we know people are just not at the level of full cohesiveness to the age of 25. This is just facts. So with the cortisol that happens through fear, it actually kills brain cells. Apoptosis, the death of cells. It kills neurons. It kills what you call the conscious state. It actually increases depression. So when you have a person that has increased depression from such a young age, it's probably because of the fear and cortisol. Cortisol. Okay, let me do this again. Cortisol. Is the increase of cortisol. That cortisol, as it runs through, if it keeps pumping on such a high level, it shuts down the gut. It shuts down the gut. The you have what you call a second brain, the vagus nerve that goes into your gut that allows what most people think is intuition. But just think when your blood vessel shuts down in the gut process, you have what you call a weakened immune system. And once you have a weakened immune system, that means what? You're so more susceptible of getting sick. Look at this. Look at how this steamrolls. And we're just talking about cortisol. There are other factors. There's the prefrontal cortex, the hippocampus, that where we base a lot of our fear and our emotions. That's why people feel so lifelessness when they're coming from certain areas that has economic depression, emotional disconnect, right? There's no hope for these kids. So you have a ninth grader, eighth grader who feels like they have no hope. That's because their body's producing more cortisol than any other. They produce less serotonin. So that means their brain's not fully developed, and their visual cortex is nothing but reliving and keep reminding them of the state that they live in. And all this, 95% is all pre-programmed. 95% stays in this program until it gets deprogrammed by what you call neurotransfers, or it's not just think positive thoughts. If I could think positive thoughts all day long, but if I'm going home to an infested area of crime, lack of food deserts, lack of the ability to see hope, I'm staying pre-programmed with that 95%. This is a detriment of the black and brown communities or low-income community, because it's not just black kids, right? There's lots of people that live in economic depressed states. But you don't have the numbers in other communities you have in the black community. And that's why you can almost say it's done on purpose, which is the prison pipeline, which is why schools are having so much difficulties. You're having a lot of difficulties with kids who cannot process something. Even if you talk to what you call a cognitive development, they are blackened out by the cortisol that's producing in their bodies, coming from a depressed state from their house, from their community. It's not just because they're bad children. It's not because they seem lifelessness. They are lifelessness because of what the chemistry in their body is producing, what their brain is constantly in, what their amygdala is constantly shutting off. The development. These are all the process. And it could, and it does, start in the third trimester of a mother's life. And what it passes down through the oxygen and the genome. We have more work to do. Information is everything. There's a way out of this. There is. I know there is. But we need to do this together. I hope this little bit of information helps you. I hope this little bit of information puts you into an action. Remember, it's called the death of cells. Apoptosis. How does that spell? Okay, let me see. Apoptosis. Apoptosis. Death of cells. And it happens. Look it up. Read it. This is what we're doing. This is what happens. May you be compassionate. May you be kind. And may you do the work. Because we need you. God bless.